Good evening. Good evening to another session of the Sea of Glass. Tonight, we are still in the book of Genesis, and you got to learn about those sons of Jacob. What happened there, so you can understand what the world is all about. You got to understand that God created life through these scriptures and the understanding, so he can pass it along to us and try to understand the human species. You got to understand that everything that's in there is not a person of the past, but it's a spiritual understanding of today, tomorrow, and all the world to come. You got to understand that this is what it is. It's all about. And what we're going to read tonight is the procurator's wife and Joseph. You know, you got to understand that Joseph is the angel of technology, the great power to create the understanding with the mind and the soul that we have received. And it's not a man, it's inside of us. All the architect of the world and all the, you see, this is this part of human understanding that you got to understand that lives inside of us. You got to understand that this is what it is all about. It's to be able to understand that inside of us, there is an angel that creates for us. You know, it may not be all the same, but there's an engineer in each one of us. And that's what Joseph is. He's part of that. You understand, once you understand the son of Jacob, you understand that you have those feelings inside of you. And you understand that the great power of yourself is to be able to create for yourself. You're supposed to be able to create what you need and provide for yourself and do everything there is. And that's what the angels are. The angels are 12 verbs inside of ourself that controls and gives you understanding of religion, of God, of government, of, you know what I mean? So you've got to really be able to understand all these things. And sometimes you're a slave to some of these things, but now we are reading about Joseph. Go ahead, Eddie.
Okay. It's a good idea if you guys want to follow from the Bible at home to see Roger's interpretation, his understanding of the scriptures, not in the way that we were used to, but in the spiritual book, okay? We're in Genesis chapter 39, Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now Joseph had been taken down to Egypt. Potiphar, an Egyptian who was one of Pharaoh's officials, the captain of the guard, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had taken him there.
Okay, let's really understand this part here. You know, see what happened. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brother. 10 of his brothers sold him into slavery. You know, Reuben didn't have anything to do with it, and Benjamin had anything to do with it. But then the other 10, all these other ones, like Judas and understanding, they were all part of it. And they sold him into slavery. Why? Because they didn't like him. They don't like no smart aleck. And this is what the world tells you all the time. We don't like a smart aleck that comes and understands things for us that we never understood, or tell us what to believe, or tell us what to understand. But Joseph had a dream. He's the power of that dream. And that's what it made him, what he is. You understand that Joseph was not better than his brother now. You got to take these sons. They're all inside of us, and they're all working inside of us. And Joseph is an angel. But if you read the story the way people think in the way of the mind, then what you're going to say, oh man, that guy was a good guy. He was a good guy. No. This is what God has made us to understand, the 12 sons of Jacob. And you got to be able to understand these 12 sons of Jacob in the way of the Lord, in the way of spiritual understanding. Go ahead.
The Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered, and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. When his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord gave him success in everything he did, Joseph found favor in his eyes and became his attendant.
Okay, let's understand this part here. You see, you got to translate each word, each understanding, for you to understand Joseph here and his master. You know, I mean, we all have to work for boss and all kinds of stuff and everything else, and we like to impress them. And this is what a person like Joseph, in the understanding of spiritual term, will try to listen to the teaching of the Lord. When you understand the Lord controls your understanding. And he controls you into the great power when people like you and when they don't like you. And if you do this to understand what Joseph, you always try to do your best. You know, when I was a little Cub Scout, they used to tell us, you know, uphold the right at all. No matter what, you uphold the right. Because I was in Canada, that's what we had for. But the thing is, you got to understand what happened here. Is the story that God has made man in his creation, in the power of his creation. This is the creation of the Lord, the way we are. He made the animal into a master of understanding. And what happened, the world has failed to understand that because nobody taught it. Nobody tried to understand it. So you really have to know that Joseph, not Jesus. Joseph is the one that tries to live a good life according. And when you do live a good life according to the way of the Lord, you will be blessed by the Lord. But if you don't, you will be cursed by the Lord. This is the way it is. It's what you will be when you're cursed and your life is a miserable thing, and when you are inside of you, you do what is right. And if you do what is right, that tells you that the Lord will bless you greatly. Go ahead, Rita.
Potiphar put him in charge of his household, and he entrusted him to his care everything he owned. From the time he put him in charge of his household and all that he owned, the Lord blessed the household of the Egyptian because of Joseph. The blessing of the Lord was on everything Potiphar had, both in the house and in the field. So he left in Joseph's care everything he had. With Joseph in charge, he did not concern himself with anything except the food he ate.
You see, when you have a Joseph inside of you, that's a feeling that you have inside of you. And if you go ahead and take care of other people's stuff when they hire you to do it, and you do well, you will do well in your life. That's the way it is. But if you don't, but there will always somebody jealous of you. There was always somebody that's tried to kick you around. There always got to be a person in the way there that's not going to like you because you're too smart, you're too good, and you see, you got to understand that being on the good side makes you a good doer. And if you want to get ahead, you got to be, at least honest. At least live in justice with other. At least live in fairness with other. And at least try to unite people into the understanding. This is what the teaching of the God tells you. Because, the tribe of Levi here is love. And you've got to have love and honor. And the only way you can have love, you have to have justice in it. The only other way you can have love is have justice. And you got to have fairness. They're brothers. They comes from the same feelings. And then you have another one that comes in the unity. So you have three great sons that forms love inside of you. This is what Joseph had inside of him. He was the one that believed in the one true God. This is what it is to believe in the one true God. It's to be a person that has the understanding, and he has the power to understand above other people sometimes. You have to have this power inside of you and said, boy, I see things different than most people do. I see, in the understanding of the Indian or the understanding of the black or the understanding of the Jewish. You have to have this understanding inside of you that you can't condemn nobody. And you can't really condemn poor people for being poor. But a lot of people don't like people that are poor. They don't like anything that, so they don't treat people right because they have this certain things about them that they don't understand. They don't understand that another person is just as important as they do. I don't care if you're a billionaire, you're Trump, and then the little people in Mexico are just as important as Trump himself. But to Trump, he don't understand that. He thinks they don't belong here. He thinks everything don't. But the thing is, in order to be fair and just and try to unite people instead of try to separate them, you have to go through love. And the love of the understanding is that you look at people lower than you, higher than you, and you put them all in one class inside of you to love them. Go ahead, Rita.
Now Joseph was well built and handsome, and after a while his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Come to bed with me."
Okay, now who's the master's wife here? Master's wife is the mind of people around you. What do you think of you? They think that, oh, this guy is a good looking. He's this, he's that. He's perfect in the way of other people, the way they see him. So we got to slow him down. We got to make him sure that he's not going to succeed unless he goes through the person that tries to hurt him. And that's the way it is in the world. You have a whole bunch of people out there that does nothing more than try to criticize you so they can put you down. But the thing is, that's the procreator's wife is the one that always trying to put you down, even though you have your bad days and your good days and everything else. But the thing is, you got to be aware of all these people around you, because what you're trying to do is unionize the world. These people don't understand that. To be injustice with the whole world. And people don't understand that. They don't understand justice, they don't understand fairness, and they don't understand unity. So, go ahead, Rita.
But Joseph refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife."
And saying that, you see, you got to be careful to understand here the way it is inside of us. You see, when you don't use fairness inside yours to talk with, you don't use justice to talk with, then you talk like a radical animal. You have no power. You only have what you think inside that mind of yours. You have loss and you have gain. This is what the mind is. The mind is nothing more than that, because the mind has to have a gain from you in order to accept you. And the mind also has to have a loss in order to reject you. So, because that's what the mind works. If you don't go to your feelings to try to understand a person that live within the human feeling and the understanding of the human feeling, then you can't understand your brother. You can't understand the way they work. And this is what that woman is trying to do, bring him to bed. In other words, bring him into the earth understanding. This is not the sex of the flesh here. This is not something that the woman wants to bring. But this is the spiritual way of understanding it. She wants to bring him into a bed, have a sexual encounter, and that would make him down to her level. And this is the way these people do. They try to bring him down to their level. In the understanding of the stupidity that they call faith, or whatever they call. And what happened is, every time that you bed down with them, in their understanding, what happened is that you cannot claim, the power of love itself. Because the power of love is unity. The power of love is to be fair with each other. Power of love is to be in justice with all men. And that's where it is. But once you lie down to a person that's stupid and understand, in other words, you're listening to a person that makes no sense. And that's what happened to people. That's where they lose it. They lose it where a human being becomes a low human being by sleeping with the stupidity of others. This is not a thing that you go to a real bed and have sex with her. This is what you do in your life. You sleep with people that makes no sense. Go ahead.
Joseph kept telling her, "How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her or even be with her.
You know, you see this, he also said God here. How can I do a wicked thing against God? If I'm intelligent enough to think straight, why would I sleep with someone that makes no sense? Why would I listen to a preacher that makes no sense, or a rabbi or a priest that makes no sense? Because if you do that, you will make a wicked sin against God. You know, the thing is, you got to be careful who you listen to so you can hold up your understanding to a level of power that lives inside of you. And that level of power is justice, fairness, and unity. And if you break out of these three angels inside of you, what you do, you're thinking like them. Next thing you know, you're really thinking that these people are right, and when they say the most stupid thing that you can ever imagine. You see, what happened is somebody's stupid, and he tells you something stupid, and you believe it. That's what you become. The understanding of something that's not true. God is the truth, and you have to go to the truth. Go ahead, read me.
One day, he went into the house to attend to his duties, and none of the household servants was inside. She caught him by his cloak and said, "Come to bed with me." But he left his cloak in her hand and ran out of the house.
Okay, now, this woman already is trying to play with him and try to bring him to her level. This is what we have in the world. You have all these stupid people that blabber their mouth all day long about the stupid thing that they say. You go sit in a coffee shop and you talk to people. They all have their opinion, and their opinion are always on the weak side of things. Very few times that you see a man with an understanding of the level of the divine power. You see people, they're just like an old animal, and that's what they feel. Loss and gain, loss and gain. Oh, we have to pay for these people. Oh, if we kept the Indian around so we can kill him, one bullet, and that's it. You see, you're not thinking of the kingdom of the Almighty God. You understand that God is the truth. And unless you go toward that truth and you listen to these people. Now, you can watch some Western movie about the Indians and everything else. There's always a bunch of them that want to kill all the Indians, and that's the way it is. Just destroy them. They're a good Indian's a dead Indian, or anything else. But then you have the others on the other side that say, well, no, these are people like us. They have family. They have children. They have this and they have that. You got to understand that you're at their level, not above them. Not because you're some kind of high rank in the military back then that you had the right to kill them. You had the right to respect them. That was your right. But if you can't respect people because you are giving a rank in the military that's so high, that's in the understanding of truth now. You in the battlefield of stupidity and ignorance. And once you cross that battlefield into what it is, then you sleep with the mind of the procurator's wife. You sleep with the stupidity. You see, everybody thinks that this was a sex, and I believe that everybody that ever read this thing here believed that that woman was trying to go to bed with him. But that's not it. It's the mind of people around you that wants to bring you to their level, to their stupidity, to their ignorance. And the next thing you know, you belong to that because you listen to them. You don't try to think for yourself. You see, okay, read another couple of lines. That's pretty good.
When she saw that he had left his cloak in her hand and had run out of the house, she called her household servants. "Look," she said to them, "this Hebrew has been brought to us to make sport of us. He came in here to sleep with me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house."
Beautiful. You want to see something great? People like to put you down when you turn them down, when you don't listen to them. They like to put you, in the situation where, you see, then they'll lie about you. They'll lie. "Oh, yeah, look at him." You know what I mean? He thinks he's better than you are. And he does this and he does that. And these people, they don't really understand, what are you doing here? What are you trying to do? They don't understand that because they're too stupid to understand that. Their mind cannot go to that level of understanding because they cannot beat their mind of a loss. They cannot beat the mind that they have as a loss. They have to come to and get a victory against you. This is exactly what happened here. If you can't convince you, they'll go against you. And if they can put you in jail for it, that's the way they are. Because they do not understand that the scriptures was meant to make man better, not worse. But the people of this world cannot understand these scriptures. All the religion of the world hasn't got a single thing to understand that's equal to God. They don't make any sense because the power of God, the power that God has inside of himself, they cannot understand that because they were never introduced that. They listen to every Tom, Dick, and Harry about all the stupidity and the ignorance, but they do not understand anything on the power of the Lord your God. God is the truth. You have to understand it on the side of truth. And then the Son of God is common sense. So you got to understand it on the side of common sense. And the same thing with reality, the Holy Spirit. You got to understand it. Now, you see a person, you shoot him with an Indian. And you see another person that comes, I shoot him too. Try to get rid of him because you don't agree with them. What happened in this world? You become a murderer of wisdom. You do not, and you try to lie to make the people understand that this people is no good and it doesn't make any sense and everything else that you can do. God is the truth. You got to remember that. Okay, go on, Rita. Read some more. It's a very powerful speech.
She kept Joseph's cloak beside her until his master came home. Then she told him this story. "That Hebrew slave you brought us came to me to make sport of me, but as soon as I screamed for help, he left his cloak beside me and ran out of the house."
See, she has the proof. She left his coat there. But she tried to seduce him into the understanding of her way of thinking. And he wouldn't go to bed with her. He would not listen to what she was saying. This is the way we got to do in life. People don't make no sense. You just walk away from it. Even though you have to leave your coat there, you have to leave proof that you're stupid or something. You know, when you come on this show here, you got to come to understand that the power of this show is to be able to understand that between one person that has the glory of the intelligent cannot go to bed with a person that's stupid. You cannot do that. If you do that, you become just like them. Next thing you know, the whole world has a great power of a lost soul. This is the world that we live now. Nobody seems to make sense no more. Nobody seems to think like the Bible tells you to think. Nobody tried to understand that there's a higher power inside of us. And you have to go to the higher power when you think of your brother. You got to make him equal to you. You got to make the black equal to you. You got to make the Indian equal to you. Even though there's, in the centuries of the past, they were slaves and they were annoying people, and then you didn't want them around you. So you make rules on them. They had to live in a little shed in the back, and they were not allowed to come around the house because you didn't want to see them. Because you did not want to sleep with them. They drink power. Many masters had they had sex with their slave, and they got them pregnant, but the thing is, they never wanted to admit that. Because the stupidity of the time, of the era of the Indian and the black and slave, was so high that everybody used to believe that like crazy. I mean, you had people in the army and they killed Indian, and they said, well, gee, that's the right thing to do. Look at these people. They come over here with feathers on their head and paint face. You know what I mean? They don't have decent clothes like we have. They don't live in a house like we do. But they never realized that in this little spirit here, that spirit was equal to you. You take like Custer and try to make Custer equal to the lowest part of the Indian that he killed. Or, see, you try to understand that they both died on there. Which one of them was on the Lord's side? That's what I'd like to know. It's a question. This big general, powerful general that was almost running to be president at the time, got killed on the battlefield just like the other Indian died on the battlefield. And he thought he was the world's greatest person to destroy the Indian. Because at first he was on the side of the Indian. Then he went to Washington. Then he lost his career. Thought of himself, my gain. And I don't want to lose no more. So I'm going to become on the side of the winners. But that's where the losers are. You got to understand that the power of these people were there for you to look at. A lot of people tell me, you just keep on saying these things all the time, but I wasn't there, 150 years ago when the Indian got all massacred and everything else. So I'm not part of that. Yes, you are. You are, because you still believe that you're better than the black man, or you're better than the Jewish person, or you're better than a man from the Middle East. You still have the same prejudice inside your soul. And as long as you have prejudice inside your soul, you see, you want to sleep with somebody. You want to have somebody believe in you. And you try your heart out, and you're still just as bad. You say, oh my God, that was 150 years ago. What's 150 years? There's no time in the Lord. You're still here, and you believe back then the same thing that you probably believe today. You say, well, you don't live 150 years. Yes, you keep on coming and understanding life after life. And where you were in the 19th century or in the 17th century is where you are today. You did not change your understanding. And the understanding is still the same. So now, how can you understand the scriptures? These people tell me, why don't I understand the scriptures? You don't understand the scriptures because you don't understand the power of it. Understand that the power is within you to understand the difference between right and wrong. Go ahead.
When his master heard the story his wife told him, saying, "This is how your slave treated me," he burned with anger. Joseph's master took him and put him in prison, the place where the king's prisoners were confined.
Okay, you got to understand now. In other words, when you believe in the truth now, and you keep saying that you didn't want to sleep with that woman, and you keep saying that you tried to do what is right for you, then the boss turns against you because of the lies of the world. You know, this is where the lies of the woman is now, the mind. And when you begin to understand that, what happens to you is you have to go to jail. You have to go to a place where people don't like you. People are not going to treat you well. You know why? Because you don't agree with the rest of society. And when you don't agree with the rest of society, you break the very volume of human thinking. You break the rule that God has made on mankind, that your brother is just as good as you. See, this is a rule. This is a law. This is part of a covenant that you have to make to the Lord. You say, I will never hurt my brother again. It's part of the covenant. The covenant is there. I will never believe in anything stupid and ignorance. I'll only believe what makes sense to the understanding of the Holy Spirit. I will never try to hurt another person and kill them because I don't agree with them. See, the great power of a person is to be able to be the person in between the person that tells the people nothing but lies. You're in between the lies and the people of the world that lies to each other. And you sit there and you have to protect the truth. Because these people, and if you have to go to jail for it, well, so be it. You know, don't be afraid of it. The Lord will be on your side. And he tells you there, even in jail, you know, the people, the warning really tried to make him because he was a smart man. And that's what we'll see the dream another day. You know, but you got to understand that the power here, that, you know, the Egyptian king finally had a big, and then put him in charge of all of Egypt. You see, that's what happened. When you're not afraid to lose something for something, and when you're not afraid to be incarcerated because of it, and you're not afraid to stand up for the truth at all costs and all price and everything else, then you look at a person inside of you, and you say to that person, love the Lord your God. This is the only thing that will never go against you. You know, go ahead.
But while Joseph was there in the prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favor in the eyes of the police of the prison warden. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison, and he was made responsible for all that was done there.
You see, if you stand up for right, to hold the right, to uphold the right, then you are within the right. If you do that, people will recognize you. And they will say, well, this guy has something about him because he upholds the truth. He did not let the truth fall down in front of him. He still said, hey, put the damn thing on my hand and put me in prison if you want to. But you're not going to change my heart. Because my heart is within the human spirit of fairness, goodness, and unity. You know, you got to understand that the justice of the Lord is inside of you. And if you have the justice of the Lord inside of you, then you're on the side of the Lord. But if you don't have the justice of the Lord on the side of you, then what's going to happen? You're going to rot in that jail. Because you can't understand. See, you cannot make your spirit any wiser than it is, because you always accept it to go in the bed of stupidity with everybody else. Go to church, everybody goes to church. Does it make sense if it makes sense? No, we go to church. Why do you go to church? You have no reason to go to church, but you go to church. See, the Lord tells you, why are you running when no one is chasing you? Why can you believe in the truth, in the great power of what made you a person of reality? You cannot believe that because you haven't got that great gift of the great life and the understanding of life. You know, what is God? God is the truth. But what is it? It's a feeling that's right there. And when you feel that feelings, the Lord is speaking to you. But if you don't go towards that feelings, then the Lord will let you go. I don't need you. I have a lot of people that wants to feel the understanding of truth inside of them. You don't want to believe that? No, you're a good Christian? Okay. You're a master power of the Scriptures. You think so, but you're not, because the Lord has made you a fool over the understanding of yourself. You only understanding the Bible in the full way of understanding the history book of it. You don't understand the Bible in the understanding that all men are created equal, that all men are part of the same creation, that all men are part of the great power of themselves to love one another and to accept one another. And we have all the same need in life. And if you're a nice, big person with a big, beautiful house and all the food that you want in there, and you look at your brother in Tijuana and said, I don't want them here. I don't want them here. You know, well, you've broken the most powerful thing in the world. You've broken the justice of the Lord. You've broken the fairness of the Lord. And you've also broken the unity of the Lord. Who knows, maybe these people will cross here in 10 years from now, they'll all be good taxpayers, and they'll bring great revenue to the country, and everything in this country will just grow far, because the biggest population that we have is our economy changes and work. Go ahead, Ed.
The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you got to understand that you go to jail for the purpose of the understanding of life itself and the understanding that what God is and the purpose of life. And, you know, what time is it? Anyway, what, you got 40 now?
Yeah.
What is 40?
The cupbearer and the baker.
Okay. We're going to read a little bit of that because we've got a little bit more time.
Okay, chapter 40. The cupbearer and the baker. Sometime later, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt offended their master, the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker, and put them in custody of the house of the captain of the guard in the same prison where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned them to Joseph, and he attended them.
You got to come to understand the great power here, that you have the steward, the one that fills a cup of wine. And then you also have the baker here, the one that makes the bread. And you have these two here in prison because whatever they did, they offended, the Pharaoh, the great power of religion on earth, That you got to switch that over to the earth. And once you begin to understand that the great power of the Lord, the great God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, tells you here that when people, you see, the steward is the one that brings the blood, the understanding. And the baker is the one that takes, the bread and he bakes it. So one brings the wine, the other one brings the bread. So one of them is not making good bread, and he's brought there. The other one does not making good wine, so he's brought in prison. But you got to understand that the power of these two here, these are not people of the past now. These are not what happened in the understanding of the past. These are the people that lives inside of you right now, is the one that that tries to tell you that they understand the Bible. The other one thinks that the bread that they use is the bread of God. And they're trying to understand that they give that to people and they also give the bread to people. So this is not a story of the past. This is a story of the present time now. where the people that brings the understanding to other people are not teaching the truth from the scriptures. You know, I don't know how many times you hear that all the time. Christians said, well, I'm saved by the blood of Jesus. Well, he's saved by the wrong wine. And the other one bakes the bread. And the other one said, well, my bread is the body of Christ. So you got to understand that these two are the blood and body of. And when you got to understand that what's going to happen to them with Joseph is very important to hear and try to find out what. Go ahead, Rita.
After they had been in custody for some time, each of the two men, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were being held in prison, had a dream the same night, and each dream had a meaning of its own. When Joseph came to them the next morning, he saw that they were dejected. So he asked Pharaoh's officials who were in custody with him in his master's house, "Why are your faces so sad today?"
Let me explain. You see, what happened here is these people don't really understand how to make wine, really understand how to make bread. So the king of Egypt, which is the king of religion of the earth, tells you that you're not supposed to offend me. So he has the power to put him in jail, but that we'll see after their dream there what happened.
"We both had dreams," they answered, "but there is no one to interpret them." Then Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me your dreams." So the chief cupbearer told Joseph his dream. He said to him, "In my dream I saw a vine in front of me, and on the vine were 3 branches. As soon as it budded, it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes, squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in his hand."
You got to understand the power here of the one that understands the scriptures. You know, it's not really to really understand the scriptures, because time will only heal the understanding of the scriptures. But a lot of people took, you know, the blood of the New Testament and they tried to understand the parable. And then next thing you know, they start worshiping Jesus and all that. But you got to understand that this power here was given by God to Jesus to meddle the human race into a great separate religion of its own. The bread was on one side and the wine was on the other side. And when you begin to understand that, you see, I understand that, you know, the steward was great in the time and people believed in him. But now, you know, the baker, you know what I mean, didn't bake the bread right and didn't really bring the right things. So you got to come, let's hear the baker now.
Well, this is what it means, Joseph said to him, the wine.
Okay.
The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position, and you will put Pharaoh's cup in his hand, just as you used to do when you were his cupbearer. But when all goes well with you, remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison, for I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve being put in a dungeon."
You got to understand another thing here, that he's going to the Pharaoh. The three branch are also, you know, the God of the Christian there. You got the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, you know what I mean, which has never been understood on earth. But for thousands of years, people have drank that wine and the great power of that wine, because you got to understand that the bread of life is the Word of God. And you got to understand that the blood is the understanding. One has to survive and one has to die. People that bake the bread, and don't put enough into the bread to make a bread unsuitable, will come and will have to be destroyed. But the steward, it's kind of hard to explain because I really have to read the whole page, you know. But the power here is to be able to understand that the human thinking. You got to understand that God is playing this whole thing on the world. God is playing the New Testament on us. God is playing the life of Jesus on us. He playing that for the purpose to bring to justice the people that live in the wisdom of the wise and the people that lives in the wisdom of the mind. Go ahead, Rita.
When the chief baker saw that Joseph had given a favorable interpretation, he said to Joseph, I too had a dream. On my head were 3 baskets of bread. In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, but the birds were eating them out of the basket on my head. This is what it means, Joseph said. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat away your flesh.
Okay. You see, it was meant to be that the people that will be destroyed at the end is the baker, because the baker is the one that make up stuff. You know, he reads the Bible in his way. He's part of the teaching of the locust. The locust will come, and the furnace will be open. And the locust, people that read Christianity, the people that try to understand the Bible in the way of Christianity are like locusts, because they jump from one place to the other. They don't understand the full scriptures. They don't understand the power of the full scriptures. So they just from one place to the next. It's like a little locust. You'll eat a piece of grass here and you'll jump. You'll eat another piece of grass there and you jump. And that's what we have in the world now. You have a bunch of Christian people all over, Catholic and Christian. They don't understand the scriptures, but they jump from one place to the next, try to understand. Oh, they read something in Ecclesiastes, or they read something in Paul, or they read something, oh, and they bring that up because it makes sense to them. They just had a little piece of bread and they jump back, you know, the locust. You see, that's why the locust comes and everybody eats their stuff, but nobody seems to understand anything. So he will be hanging on the tree for it because he does not understand what he preach. You know, there's not a preacher in all the world that can preach from the scriptures and try to explain the Bible. They don't have it. And I listened to many, many, many of them on television. We're having to, and all of them has the same purpose: try to save themselves. And if you try to save yourself, you save no one. You save nothing, because everybody wants to be in the front row when God said, okay, now, I'm going to judge mankind. And that's the way that mankind will be judged. But they don't realize what the judgment of the Lord is. They don't realize what the great power. Now, those that are within the blood, the understanding, there's something about them. Even they don't fully understand, but there's something about it that tries to understand to get to the bottom of things. You know, they try to read in this book and that book and try to understand. But you got to understand that you cannot understand something that's done backward. It's like say you read a whole book and you hit it all backward. Each word is backward. You're going to have a hell of a time understanding it. And then you're going to get lost. And then you're going to have to read it on the mirror or something. But you can't go directly to it because it's not part of it. You know, the great power of a human being is not to be in the understanding of itself. Okay, read a little bit more.
Now the 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all his officials. He lifted up the heads of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker in the presence of his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position so that he once again put the cup into Pharaoh's hand. but he hanged the chief baker, just as Joseph had said to them in his interpretation. The chief cupbearer, however, did not remember Joseph. He forgot him.
You got to understand here that people that try to understand the Bible will come to understand it, and they will be in agreement someday of the understanding of it. It's not something that's easy to understand, but then it's not that hard. The only thing that people don't apply, they don't apply themselves into it. When you take your own spirit and the way you feel inside of them and match them with these scriptures, you got the power of understanding, because the real understanding is here. It's not what people say. It's here. You know, that's how you understand. That's how I understood the scriptures, through my own feelings. And once you understand through your own feelings, at that point, you go into the cupbearer, the wine, the steward, the one that makes the wine. And next thing you know, you begin to understand. You see, understanding the scriptures is like this. One day you'll read it, and you can't understand it. It's so blurred, because you're not yet born into it. And then you'll read the same chapter in the future and understand it perfectly. It will match your feelings, because you have to put your feelings to work inside yourself to come to understand the great power of the scriptures. God is the truth, but the truth is what? The truth is what you believe inside yourself for the understanding of the great power of human thinking. You see, what happened to the world is that people did not apply the scriptures on themselves. They did not. And the Lord condemns that. And anybody that didn't come to understand the scriptures and didn't try to understand it for himself, if you try, you don't have to go to church. You should never go to church. Because if you try, you can do it on your own. And it's not going to be some dumb priest or some dumb preacher somewhere that's going to tell you what it means. God is the one that's going to tell you what it means. Okay, I got one more minute. You know, read another part of that.
It's too long. It's Pharaoh's dreams.
Okay, now don't go to Pharaoh's dream. Okay, we're going to talk to you. I got one more minute before the show's over. And I want you to believe that the power of what people think does not interfere in your life. The procurator's wife is trying to go to bed with an understanding that's not true. and you have to withstand her and others. Even though they put you in prison and they hurt you, and it's not easy to be on the side of right when they condemn you. I don't care what anybody said. If you're on the side of right and you don't want to change your mind, you like people to like you, so you want to say what they believe, that's not what it's all about. What it's all about is don't go to bed with no one. Believe for yourself. Sleep in the dream of reality. Sleep in the dream of common sense. And sleep in the dream of the truth. And that's how you're going to be willing to worship the Lord your God with all your soul and all that you are inside yourself. God is the truth, and the truth is God. Now, I want to thank you for tuning in. And I want to, tell you that it's so important that you read for yourself. Try to read for yourself. Try to understand that the scriptures is not an impossible book to understand. It's very simple, but don't listen to the false prophet. If you go to church on Sunday, forget the book. Just put it away somewhere, because you're not going to understand it. You have to trust in the Lord your God, and you have to believe what he tells you, not what they tell you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you another time. Goodbye, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.